Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. Maybe you just found your old N64 in your parents' basement or Papa and Mima's garage, or you just bought one from a garage sale, flea market, and you turned it on, it's not reading carts. N64s are built like tanks, so 9 times out of 10, they just need a nice cleaning. So we are going to take apart our N64. We're gonna show you how to clean it. Most of the time, it's just, you gotta take this the cart out, the cart reader, and clean under the pins and everything, but you gotta take everything else apart to get to that. So we'll do that and then put it back together. What you're gonna need to start, you're gonna need one of these bad boys. You can get these on Amazon. Basically, I'll leave a link down in the description. You have 6 screws, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they look like that. So you think it's a 4mm, and we're just gonna dive right in, start taking this apart. Take off screw number 1.
Oh, yeah, screw number 1.
And this has the cap on it, so you have these 2 caps along with your screw. And also, because I'm already forgetting stuff, we just started, I'm already forgetting. You can take your back plate off here, and why don't we, since we're doing that, take off your memory expansion plate. And to get this out, Joe's here, by the way. We can't see us. And a lot of people say like, oh, hey, you can just get something flat, pop it out. I would recommend getting needle nose pliers and just pulling it, being gentle, going side to side, a little bit, loosen her up, and just give her a nice little pull, and there she is.
Darn it, you violated the warranty.
I know, now we're screwed. N64 is not gonna be able to.
What is this 1-800 number on the back?
We should call it.
We should call the 1-800 number.
We should. So we're just gonna take all these screws out. All right, and we have all 6 of our screws out. You can turn it over, lift it up, and oh yeah, look at that. She's a little dirty. Look, we got some little dust right there. So it's always good to clean these. We're gonna put this to the side for a second because we're gonna show all of it. So you have your power, your reset button, and you have the flaps here. If you wanna do that, they're just little clips and push out. And you'll do that for this one also.
It's just that simple.
It is. No, it takes a little finessing. These are tricky. So you can clean your buttons. Again, there might be some dirt under there or, what have you.
Oh, there is definitely.
Yes, and there is. So that's good. So now you're gonna get a Phillips head because you have 2, we have a couple different size Phillips heads here, because these are your flaps. And just two screws. And the flaps are actually really easy to put back together and take off. And we'll show you why. So all you gotta do is take these 2 screws out, lift that up, and now, so this is the big thing you have to remember about these. You'll see these 2 springs, and see if I can get it zoomed in here. So you'll see when you put this one back, that spring is leaning up against this wall, and this one's leaning up against this plastic piece here. So we'll take them out again for demonstration purposes as if we were cleaning it all, put it back in focus. All you gotta do is take those out, and now you have your shell. Half of it, the top shell. Some people put them in the dishwasher. I would just probably put it in a tub with warm water and Dawn dish soap, make it look nice and squeaky clean. We're not gonna show that in video. I'm sure you know how to put dish soap in a tub of warm water. So hey, we're gonna trust you on that. That's the easy part. Now we have all the fun stuff. We're definitely gonna clean some of this. We're gonna put some other stuff over there. So look at all this. I mean, look at the start button, or the power button, the start button. The power button's dirty. We can just probably get that right off.
On my floor.
I did just toss it on Joe's floor. So what we're gonna do first is take off these 4 screws. These are for your power supply, your AV cables. Again, just another Phillips head. These 4 will look like that. All right, so we have those 4 screws taken out. And now next we're gonna do these screws up front here. This little hole, don't think there's a screw missing. There's not a screw that goes there. Some other pieces, be really careful. This is where it gets a little tricky because these pieces will pop out and you just need to remember where they go. So we'll start up front with this small one right here. All right, so get your smaller screwdriver now. And we're gonna take these smaller screws out. Right here. And these are small and long, just how she likes it. So now this little piece will come out right here. You can put that to the side. Next, we're gonna go to these black screws right here. There's a lot of screws on here. The N64 is definitely one of the trickier ones. And remember, these black screws, these are very small, like so. So we're gonna get these other gold screws, 2. And these ones, you're gonna notice little washers on them. And that's how you know they go to that front part of the plate. And now this part, you're gonna be able to lift right out like so, along with this piece. I forgot that piece was on there. And this piece will go back on, but we'll show you how to put that back on after. So now we can go ahead and take, again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Pay attention to the sizes of your screws for all these as well. See, because this one, for example, the one that goes on these sides, it's longer than these other ones. All right, and we'll get our last screw out here. Now,
Would you say
we are going to pop our motherboard in again. So remember I told you about the AV ports and like the power supply. We're gonna put this to the side because we're gonna do some cleaning on it. On the bottom half of the shell, you have your LED light cover that you can pop out there. You can clean that as well. And then you just have these little 2 tabs, flip it over. There they are, pops right out. So now you can clean your bottom half of your shell. Give her a good scrub. Maybe she's dusty. She's a dirty little girl. Give her a nice cleaning.
Yes.
Yes, I cracked myself up. So now we have our motherboard here, our mother of all boards.
Oh.
And again, she's a little dirty, but we're gonna take our shield off here. So 10 screws. Again, these are our last 10 screws. Keep these 10 separate from your other ones, and we'll go ahead and take off all of those. And these ones, you'll know, are the other small gold screws. And we will get our last screw off. Number 10. And that, boys and gals, will bring us to lifting off our heat shield. So now you can clean this if you so please or need to. This isn't gonna necessarily make or break something from working, but if it's dirty, like this one's dirty. So we're gonna clean that. And we're just gonna use our trusty isopropyl alcohol. Some people like using 50%. We just use 91. I've never had any issues with electronics and 91%.
If you don't feel comfortable, just dilute it.
Yeah, dilute it, use 50, but for this, we're just getting her, oh yeah, see, look at that. And look, she's nice and clean already.
It looks like cotton candy.
It looks like cotton candy, dirty cotton candy. The bottom's nice and clean. We don't have to do anything with that. So again, get all your dust off. Any of those other parts, I showed you a couple other parts that were dusty. A lot of this, and right here. So we can do that as well. I think for this, we'll just use a little Q-tip, and you can lift this off, and you can get around the edges of your shield if you need to. Even if it's just getting, look at that. That's gross, man.
Ew.
So we want our N64 and our systems to be clean. These are easy to collect dust. We can give this a better cleaning. Get all that dirt off of there. Get your underside if you need to, and now we can put this to the side as well. We can get back to our plate here, move some stuff around, and this is a little dirty. I kind of want to clean this too. So again, I'm just going to get a Q-tip with our rubbing alcohol. You know, this is around the button here. You don't need to,
Around the button.
you know, make a huge mess. Go the wet side, use the dry side, go around it. All the dirt around here, I mean, it's a lot. That's all I can really say. So that even just makes all the difference around your power button. If you're having issues with your power button, there might be some gunk built up around that. But the biggest thing, so let's look at the rest of our board. A little bit of a close-up. The rest of it, this all looks pretty good. This system does work. You know, this is more for presentation purposes, but now the biggest thing, again, 9 times out of 10, is this part that you want to get off. And you just have to kind of wiggle it and be careful with it. The pins are down into the board. So you're basically, it's not screwed on or anything. We got the screws out. We're just gonna give her a little wiggle. Pull on one side, pull on the other, and it comes right off. So the pins on the carts, you can see, and they're easy to clean, but these are not. And this is where you're probably going to want to rub, and you can see, yeah, rubber nice. It's a little dirty, so that's what we're gonna rub with our Q-tips again. So again, just dab your Q-tip in your rubbing alcohol and give it a good scrub. You're probably gonna get some pieces caught, so just remember that. And you're just gonna go around until it's not dirty anymore. That's the best way you could say it. But again, look at the Q-tip. This is what's reading your cart. So you want a couple nice swoops, maybe there's some gook around the edges here, and it's gonna look a lot better. Still a little bit of dirt coming off of it. Just make sure you get any remaining pieces off of there. And now that's a lot better already. And for good measure, while you're here, get yourself a can of compressed air. You can give this a nice little spray, get it in frame here. Spray off any remaining gunk. You see some pieces floating around up here. Make sure you get all that off. You can spray the whole board. You can wipe this whole board down with rubbing alcohol if you need to. But we're just gonna spray it a little bit there, and also while you're here, spray inside. Get any of that garbage out. You can spray the other side. And that is pretty much all you would really need to do to clean it. Now, before we reassemble this, don't forget you have another shield underneath. And again, you can clean the underside of the board if you need to. You can spray under here. You can wipe down this with alcohol as well. You can clean your bottom shield. This one doesn't really look as dirty. It just looks like it's a little, she's just old. So don't forget that as well. You can do that if you need to. So now we can start putting everything back together. We'll start with our carport. I'm pretty sure it only goes on one way, but if you forget, oh, which way did I have it? If you have your numbers here, there's the arrow. Kind of lines up with this arrow right here. So you can just pop that back on, feel it kind of go firmly into place. You can get your bottom here. Ooh. Line that up and make sure that is snug. Line up all your screw holes. And now we can start putting the rest of our N64 back together. So when we're starting to put the rest of the shields, I keep calling them shields, there's probably another word for it, but so for the first part, just remember you have your power button and reset button, and those will fit right over them. And make sure all, again, your screw holes are lined up before you start screwing everything back together, because then if they're not, you have to take it apart, realign it, and that's just a pain, and we don't want to do that. And then after that, you can fit back together your heat shield, as again, I keep calling it. And once again, make sure, so your best way to make sure this is aligned is your bottom part here. That's how you'll know it's pretty much in place, ready to be screwed back on. Maybe I can get a little bit better of a shot, hold it in place here. And that's essentially what it's gonna look like. And once you are certain, let's move this. And once you're certain that it's lined up, we can start putting our screws back in. And we're gonna start with those 10 small gold screws that look like this. And we're gonna put them in 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. All right, and then we have our 10 screws in. It will look like that. Now, before we put any of the motherboard back together, we're gonna take our bottom half of our shell and get the motherboard on the shell. So remember, we took these two pieces here. We'll put those back in place. So basically how these guys goes, this little part right here is gonna go flat in there, and the flat part will lay over the screw hole like that. Don't forget your LED light cover, which you can stick right in the front hole. Very nice. Yeah. And then we have our motherboard that we can lay back on top. You can just align it with the controller input slots and slide that in. And then last but not least, we have our AV port cover that we're going to put in as well. You can kind of just lift this side up. It'll kind of slide right in like that, as you can see. And then push it right down. It should align right over these screw holes. So now we can continue to put the rest of the motherboard back together. So to start, we're gonna take this cover that goes over the expansion slot, and you'll see you can align these parts here that go over the smaller screw holes. And it'll kind of just sit into place right there. The next piece we have is this little guy right here. And I'm gonna see, this part's a little tricky. I'm gonna see if I can get it in focus. This part, let's see, come on, focus, man. You can see it's kind of almost like it latches, and that is exactly what it does. And it latches in between the silver and black part right here. Hopefully you can see that. And that's kind of, get that back in focus. We're doing a lot of focusing. We're focused. And, and it sits over like that. And again, you'll kind of just look for that latch. So just push it down. You can see hopefully right here, do a little side angle where it kind of sits right in place there. Our last piece for this section is the piece that looks like this, and you'll be able to align these 4 kind of holes right there and kind of stick it right in place. There's kind of like that little lip also, and that's gonna kind of just sit in place and latch into place as well. And that is how you put back together the tricky front piece. So now we can start putting the rest of our screws back in. And remember these long, smaller screws that look like this, that came off of these 2 holes right here? We're gonna start with those screws. Just like that. Perfect. All right, and after we have this put together, your next set of screws, we're gonna start with these 2 front ones here. Those are gonna be your black screws. Your small little black screws are gonna go in these 2 front holes. All right, and we have our second screw. Now the next 2 screws, your gold screws with your washers here and here. These are the only screws with washers on the N64. If they're not going in there, you put them in the wrong spot. Now, we have our front 4 screws in and our other 2 screws. We're getting places. Next, we are going to do our 2 holes next to our port there, and those are gonna be your long Phillips head screws. So drop those in, tighten those up. Beautiful. And after you get those screws in on the side of your cartridge ports, you have your 4 silver screws. Remember, those are gonna go next to your, or into your AV port and power port. It's probably easier if we turn this around, turn it around town, and get those 4 screws screwed in. All right, and there we go. We are nearing the finish line. So within the shell here, we only have 6 screws left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Remember, there is not a screw that goes in this side, only this side. So your 6 screws will look like that, and we can get all of those screwed in. And there you have number 6. Boom, everything is back together in our N64. But before we finish it off, we're gonna get our top shell back and we're gonna put these pieces back together. So we'll start with our power and reset buttons. The reset on the right, you can see it will go back. All you gotta do is just make sure those clips are in there, and you'll hear that little click, push it right back into place. The clips can be a little bit tricky, but it's pretty easy. And so our buttons are in place. Now we can put on the doors. These are both 2 different sizes, so they only go and will fit into 1 slot. So it'll be pretty easy to make sure you put it in the right one. The only thing, remember I pointed out earlier, make sure your top of your springs are in the right spot. So for this one, for example, we'll drop it in there and make sure, this one already is, make sure that piece is sticking up against that piece of plastic there. And for your other door, same thing. Make sure it's up against this piece of plastic. And then last but not least, you have your piece that goes back over to screw in. This part with the opening will slide over this plastic piece here, and that's how you'll know it's in the right spot. So you'll just pop it right back on top. Get your last 2 screws, Phillips head screws, that is, and screw it back in place on both sides. Yay, so your reassembly is 99% complete. Make sure get in place there. Make sure your door's good. You can put the cover right back on. Make sure everything is aligned. And then you have your last 6 screws, which again will look like this. And now your N64 is back together. Don't forget your port cover on the bottom, your jumper and/or expansion pack, and your memory expansion cover. That is how you disassemble, clean, and reassemble your N64. It takes a little bit of finessing, but it's not as hard as it looks. Let us know if you have any questions down in the comments. Hopefully it works and you can get back to playing some N64 games. Appreciate you watching, and we'll see you for the next video.